we ready to go? Okay, let's get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to be here with you today. We have a talk today, joint talk between AMD and Microsoft, optimizing productivity and meeting next level demands in the AI era. Just as a reminder, this session is going to be recorded, so you are consenting to your likeness and voice, etc., if you participate, being used. So that's for the lawyers. Just to introduce myself, my name is Andrew Diekman. I'm with AMD. I'm a corporate vice president and general manager of the Instinct GPU business unit. And later in the talk, my friend Nidhi Chappell is going to come up. Nidhi is a vice president and general manager of Azure AI infrastructure. So we're here to talk to you today about AI. I'll kick it off just with a couple of thoughts just on the impact of the technology. We've heard a lot about this today. When AMD had our MI300X launch event in December, we used this slide. We called AI the most transformational technology in 50 years. People can debate, is it undercalling it or overcalling it? I mean, I think we can all agree it's incredibly impactful. And some of the examples that Kevin, Scott used this morning in the keynote, they resonate with me greatly as well. The efficiencies and benefits that will be derived in the fields of healthcare and education. I think a lot about I think it's going to completely revamp education, and I just think about the benefits of every kid with an internet connection is going to have the ability to have a really, really effective tutor to help them to learn effectively with their learning style. Scientific discovery, material science, drug discovery, I mean, the list goes on. And then you also think about the impact to the arts with cool tools like Sora. So, I mean, it's really going to impact, I think, every aspect of our lives. Everything from planning vacations to building presentations like this. It's going to be, an incredibly exciting time as we move forward. And we're still in the very early innings of this. I've heard some people say, we're not in the early innings. The game hasn't even started. We're still in the parking lot getting the car parked. So there's lots, the rate and pace of innovation, continues to be quite torrid. So, what is this generative AI services? What do they need in terms of compute to power them? Well, it's an incredibly demanding workload. And it's interesting, I work with several folks that have been building processors for upwards of 30 or 40 years. And compared to traditional workloads that we've seen in the data center, that perhaps the software stacks were slow to adopt new hardware innovations and innovations to help those workloads run better, the generative AI workloads will soak up every little bit of compute, memory bandwidth, memory capacity, networking bandwidth that we can give it. And then you add that ever-expanding workload with just the increasing demands of the workload, you get this compounding effect for the demands upon the data center. This is a slide that Kevin showed in his keynote. I liked it better than the slide that I had, so I had the team lift it and use it in this presentation. But it's really pointing to, as the models increase, we need more compute. And those training clusters have been growing substantially, growing from the shark-sized models up to the whale-sized models. I think we're going to need to move categories away from marine life, probably, to describe the next animals that get built in the future. But the training continues to grow because the model sizes want to continue to grow to provide more intelligence. And training is just part of the compute needs, because inferencing is going to, in AMD's view, be a multiple of the training compute needs, because as you provide services based upon those wonderful models, it's going to be a heck of a lot of inferencing compute required to power all of those services. So what is AMD doing about this? I mean, we are very, very focused, and our mission is to bring faster and more efficient compute to deal with these AI models. So we're really driving the best efficiency and the lowest total cost of ownership with our AI accelerators. So in the December event when we launched our MI300X product, we really focused on a couple of key attributes of this product. It has the highest memory capacity and bandwidth available in the market today for shipping accelerators. We have leadership compute flops, both for FP16 and FP8. And we have an open source software stack with broad support for all the leading AI frameworks that are used in the market today. The key pillars of our product portfolio that we really focused on is ease of migration, so both from a hardware as well as from a software point of view. We focused on making sure that our hardware is drop-in compatible with existing server designs to make it easy for our customers like Microsoft to adopt our solution. And then from a software point of view, making it easy for the users to migrate and take advantage of our platform. So the ROCm stack is upstreamed with the leading AI frameworks like PyTorch, and we support native compilers like the OpenAI Triton compiler. The second pillar of our product strategy is around performance leadership. I talked about the MI300X having leading compute flops, and this is a core tenet that we're delivering with the product portfolio. The third one is openness and a commitment to openness. So this is both from a software perspective. Most of our software stack is open sourced, as well as we're committed to open networking standards, particularly Ethernet for our scale-out networking technology. And we've announced in recent months a commitment to the Ultra Ethernet Consortium, which we're driving with a number of ecosystem partners. The last one is our maniacal focus on customers, making sure that we are listening to them and engaging to solve their key problems. Microsoft obviously being one of our very best customers, and they were really a key input to our design point with 300X and our future product roadmap as well. So let's look at how our MI300 GPUs stack up against the competition. So this is a slide that we've shared in the past, basically comparing the MI300X product offering to the H100. So you can see that at the server level, we have 2.4 times more memory capacity, 1.5 terabytes of total memory capacity on the server. We have a 60% advantage of memory bandwidth at the GPU and node level. And then we deliver about 30% more peak compute flops with comparable scale-up and scale-out networking technology on the platforms to the shipping platform from our major competitor. Just to focus in on some of the advantages of the memory capacity, basically more memory capacity allows us to do more inferencing work with a fewer number of GPUs. So we can hold more memory contacts within a smaller number of GPUs, therefore allowing us to perform the inferencing functions with less east-west traffic between the GPUs and to basically be able to do that workload with a lower number of GPUs than the competing solutions. And then from a strong, an ecosystem perspective, of course, great hardware, without, great software is not very useful to anyone. So, just as an example of some of the initiatives that we have been focused on, we have broad support for over 700,000 Hugging Face models that we do regression on nightly. So we have a strong partnership there for a broad set of models that are being supported. We have day zero support, and we're fully upstreamed in PyTorch. And then we're also partnering with all the other major frameworks to make sure that we have broad support there, as well as with the OpenAI Triton compiler. So with that, I will bring up my friend Nidhi, who's going to talk a little bit about the journey that we've been together with Microsoft and their experience with the 300X.
Thank you. So let me talk a little bit about where we started on our journey, and we'll talk a little bit about how we have progressed over the last few years. So I call it a journey because really, while you see MI300X, we've actually been working with AMD for last four generations at least. We have the privilege of actually having a very incumbent customer base that is always looking for an alternative to the market leader solution today, but also is looking for differentiating value, whether it is memory capacity, flops, and stuff. So we actually started our journey with AMD, starting the MI50 series. We brought MI50 in. We actually started to port some of our workloads, internal workloads, onto MI50. And that was the beginning of a big collaboration from both sides, wherein we actually started to see where we could really optimize our infrastructure, our software stacks for AMD's architecture. And similarly, we could provide feedback back to AMD on the ROCm stack, on the RICL side of things, and really bring in sturdiness to that infrastructure and start to make it, at scale, more viable for all of our internal workloads. So we've actually been deploying AMD internally for MI50, MI100, MI200, and that's what has allowed us to bring in real feedback that helped us shape MI300X. Like Andrew was talking about this, MI300X truly was a joint partnership the way we defined. And we've actually furthered this partnership in the future generation. So we are working very, very closely with AMD to define the next generation so we can really optimize the full stack, right? We want to make sure for our end customers, knowing their workloads, whether it is in training or inference, we can provide them that full system level solution that is optimized for the workloads. And this is where, we are excited. I think publicly now we can say this, that we have MI300X available for everybody. And this is a big moment for us because, like I said, while internally we've been using it for a couple of generations, to be able to make this capability available to public for customers to be able to use this is very exciting, right? We are the first cloud to actually make this available, which is awesome too. But most importantly, this actually changes the economics, the dynamics, the capability that is available to customers, any customer out there, any developers out there, to have an alternative solution. Till now, we actually didn't have a really good solution out there in the market. But as Andrew was showing before, with MI300X, whether it's on compute, whether it is on memory bandwidth, memory capacity, we actually have a very differentiated solution. And Satya mentioned this earlier in the session that we actually do see MI300X provide leading price performance on our GPT-4 workloads, which is a great deal for us because a lot of our workload today is GPT-4. And we expect that as we move to the next generation models, we'll continue to optimize our MI300X offerings and continue to get the best price and get performance for our customers. So that's really exciting, again, for not just our internal customers, for OpenAI, for all of our other customers, but broadly speaking, for developers that are looking to higher memory capacity, higher compute usage models for their training workloads. And this is why having this available publicly opens up this space for other developers to benefit from it. This is a point I was talking about before, right? Beyond just looking at the silicon, we've actually been working very closely with AMD on the entire stack. And this is something, again, I borrowed the slide from Satya because it just truly shows that it's not just about bringing a VM into the marketplace and making it available. In AI space, because of the way the workload is evolving fast, we are actually working very closely to define all the way from the data center to the systems that go into the data center, to the silicon that goes into the systems, to the interconnect. And we are passing all of that feedback across to our partners, including AMD, to make sure that when we actually showcase MI300X, it's not just at the silicon level that there is performance, but at a system level, from an end-to-end system level, a developer or an end user can actually really benefit from this. And this is where, whether we are working through thinking about our different technologies in the data center, thinking through our liquid cooling solutions, thinking through our I/O options, thinking through our memory footprints, thinking about our silicon options, we've actually been sharing a lot of our feedback to the AMD team members. And in fact, I would say we actually work so closely with them that there's been a lot of this data transfer back and forth to make sure that when we bring this MI solution to market, it is really optimized end-to-end so our customers can see the best price performance on these VMs. And this is not just for external customers, right? I was saying before, we have an incumbent customer base internally, and this is where we're in a unique position because we, to some degree, harden these solutions internally first. We actually have a lot of our internal customers, internal properties run on our AMD solution. So we've been running this on MI50 onwards. And this is just, it shows you the scale at which our internal properties are running. This is not an AMD specific statistic, but it actually helps you understand the scope and breadth at which our workloads are running, like whether it's Teams, our Office customers. These are all customers that are running on AI infrastructure and now would actually be using MI in this fleet as part of that option that is available to them, and would be able to differentiate their offerings because, like Andrew was mentioning before, for some of the workloads, you can really benefit from the extended memory space that is available, capacity and bandwidth, and the compute that is very comparable in many cases. So a lot of our customers, internal customers, will really benefit from these offerings. And again, it's not just about the customers benefit from it. It is the evolving workloads, both on training and inference, that will actually benefit from this capability that we are bringing to market. So we are really excited about this. And one of the things I wanted to showcase is, we don't just talk about a public release. When we talk about public release, that generally means some customers have had a chance to touch the silicon, run their workloads on it, provide us some good feedback on it. So I'm not going to read through this one, but this is just a testimonial to the fact that this silicon has gone through many revs of customers using this, providing us feedback, and really realizing the value that MI brings into this mix here. So Hugging Face, which is what we were just talking about this. And Hugging Face is really interesting because with Hugging Face, you actually open up the aperture for a lot of external models. You don't have to just be using OpenAI's models. You can be using any models, and we are trying to make sure that those models are optimized on MI series. And then we have M365, which is our internal customer base, one of the biggest customer base for our internal services, and they are in love with the MI series as well. So again, two testimonials to just say that this is not a launch that is like, oh my gosh, we're just bringing this hardware. This is something that we have customers already using this and feeling really good about it and providing us feedback. So really look forward to this. I know we have a little bit more time left on our hand, but I don't know if Andrew, if we want to do a few questions or anything, but just if you need any other information, there are team members in here. There's information also on our website, and we'll continue to bring our test results as we evolve over a period of time too. So, that.
So I think we can do questions if there's any questions in the audience or from online.
Yeah, we can do some in the audience as we wait for them to roll in online.
We are very thorough.
Vincent online was asking if ChatGPT trains on these.
So I can't speak on specific workloads, whether they are training on this, but I would say this, that customers can train on MI300X. We do expect customers will train. I wouldn't want to speak about a specific customer use case, but the the infrastructure we are bringing in at scale can be used for training, of course, absolutely. So,
In the back there.
One of the sessions, like the AI Studio, they talk about like the LLMs and also the performance that those LLMs has in Azure. Do you guys also publish like the difference in performance when we're running these versus other suppliers?
So just to repeat, the question is, what's the difference in performance running LLMs with the MI300X versus other hardware platforms or system platforms available in the market? Is that? Okay.
yeah, I would just say, so we haven't published exact performance numbers there. One of the things we have published is as we are looking at performance today, AMD MI300X is leading in performance per dollar on a lot of these models. And the reason we haven't is, for folks who are familiar with this, we are constantly improving the stack, right, on our GPU stuff. So GPT-4, which is what we have measured performance on today, we actually do see MI300X doing better than our incumbent solution today. So.
And I think that's kind of in line with the specs that we pointed out. The underlying hardware specifications, I think, are quite competitive, and you should expect that to show up in the workload performance.
Yeah.
Right here.
For customers using Azure OpenAI servers and GPT models to that, is the experience fairly transparent to them when using MI300 versus NVIDIA H100?
Yeah, so for customers using Azure OpenAI, they would see very similar experience, and that is by design, right? We want our customers, our developers, to be focused more on the higher layers of the stack and not have to worry about the hardware underneath it. So that's where we make sure, working with AMD, that from an experience point of view, it's very, very similar. So, yeah.
I got a few online. Preeti is asking if sharding happens at the VM level or the data center GPU level.
That's a very generic question. So sharding is, it happens at both, and it really depends on what customer base, what models you're using at. It happens at node level. It does not quite happen at data center level, like, it depends on how many copies you're running, but it does happen across VMs, if you will. So, but again, it's a very model-specific question. So it depends on the models you're running.
And then we got another one that's pretty similar to like Mix. Basically, they're asking share of AMD versus competition on ChatGPT inference.
I'm pretty sure that's not going to be answered.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those things where I think there is a customer involved that I would prefer not to speak about them. So,
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. I think that
That was-
wraps it.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.